Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa at France 24. I'm Vedika Bahel. Here's the top headlines from across the continent. New reports from rights groups detail atrocities in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Investigations from Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch reveal targeted killings, crimes against civilians and gang rapes that accuse both the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels and Congolese state forces. Over 2 years of war may have reduced the once bustling Sudanese capital to rubble and ruins, but Khartoum's residents are determined to rebuild their city. And the quarter-final lineup is officially set in stone for the African Nations Championship as the tournament enters its knockout phase. For the first time in the competition's history, all 3 of the host nations will feature in the final 8. Our correspondent brings us the latest. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting with our top story. 2 separate investigations conducted by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have detailed devastating human rights abuses occurring in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the parts controlled by M23 rebels. This includes executions, gang rapes, and crimes against civilians. M23 rebels have been accused of committing many of the crimes, but Congolese state forces have also been implicated. The United Nations has called the decades-old conflict in Eastern Congo, quote, one of the most protracted, complex, and serious humanitarian crises on earth. Our correspondent in Kinshasa, Emmett Livingston, explains.
Human Rights Watch found that in July, the M23 had massacred 141 civilians in 14 different villages in the province of North Kivu. It also described how the killings targeted mostly Hutu villagers and appeared to be part of a campaign against the extremist Hutu militia FDLR. Rwandan soldiers reportedly took part in these operations. Human Rights Watch managed to confirm the names of 141 people who were killed, but this number is likely an underestimate. The UN has found that the M23 killed about 319 people in North Kivu in July. Separately, Amnesty International also released a report on Wednesday detailing cases of executions, gang rape, and other crimes committed by armed actors in Eastern Congo. Amnesty said that it had documented the summary executions of 5 men by the M23. It also interviewed 14 survivors of gang rape, 8 of whom had been raped by M23 fighters, 5 by militia members allied to the Congolese government, and 1 by a Congolese soldier. This extreme violence is a vivid illustration of how little has changed on the ground in Eastern Congo, despite intense efforts in recent months to reach a peace agreement. Fighting between the Congolese army and M23 rebels has also recently resumed.
Next, residents in the Sudanese capital are trying to rebuild their city, ravaged after over 2 years of war. The scale of the destruction is devastating, estimated by authorities to be around $700 billion in reconstruction costs nationwide, and the capital, Khartoum alone, accounts for around half that figure. Residents, though, are determined to rebuild, despite often lacking water and electricity. Emily Boyle has the story.
Among the ruins of Khartoum, these men are hard at work. Despite not having access to critical building materials, they are determined to rebuild their city, one wall at a time.
The biggest difficulties we face in reconstruction are the lack of water and electricity, which are the things we suffer from the most.
The task that lies ahead for these workers is Herculean. The battle for Khartoum between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese armed forces killed tens of thousands of people. The violent street fights reduced the once bustling capital to rubble. The city is now gutted of almost all of its infrastructure.
Regarding the destruction, we have 4 areas that we are looking to repair: destroyed service buildings such as hospitals and treatment centers, the restoration of the energy sector such as water and electricity, and rebuilding destroyed educational centers like schools and government universities.
Although Khartoum's power grid has not yet been completely restored, around 2 million people are expected to return to the capital this year. Those who have already returned assure that things are looking more positive.
Honestly, there is an improvement in the standard of living, and there is stability and real tangible services that have begun to return again, such as electricity, water, security, and medical services.
Sudan is suffering the world's worst humanitarian crises, with nearly 25 million people in dire food insecurity and over 10 million people internally displaced across the country.
Let's head to Malawi now, where the effects of the Trump administration's foreign aid cuts are being felt, crippling the World Food Programme and the UNHCR and what they're able to provide to adequately support those in need. Our correspondents travelled to the country's only refugee camp, which is already oversaturated to over 5 times its original capacity. According to refugees there, food insecurity and crime are becoming more and more worrisome. This report's from Tom Canetti, Caroline Dumais and Stefan Carstens.
Originally built as a prison, Dzaleka was repurposed into a refugee camp to accompany the influx of refugees in 1994 following the Rwandan genocide. It was designed to accompany about 10,000 refugees, but it's now home to almost 60,000 people. The effects of the withdrawal of US funding have been devastating to the camp. The World Food Programme is only handing out about 50% of the rations that it did earlier in the year, and the UN Refugee Agency is only operating at about 20% of its budget.
So the majority of our refugees are from the DRC, and I think that the situation is not yet stable, and people are continuing to come to the country. It means that they need to be assisted, they need to be supported.
Despite the UN Refugee Agency drastically reducing their presence at the camp, more than 500 refugees continue to arrive here each month, and those who we spoke to are becoming more and more concerned for their security.
You'll see some other issues coming behind, like more prostitutions that can also spread more diseases, will arise. There is robberyism because people don't have another sources of living.
That evening that we spoke to Roger, a boy was reportedly stabbed at Dzaleka, reflective of what refugees are calling a more insecure situation in a camp with an uncertain future.
Our correspondent Tom Canetti there. Leaders and representatives from nearly 50 African countries congregated in Japan as the country kicked off a 3-day summit pledging deeper economic and strategic ties to the continent. The Tokyo International Conference on the African Development, or TICAD, opened in Yokohama, and Japan's Prime Minister vowed to enhance inter-regional connectivity and promote trade and investment. It comes as Tokyo is looking to counterbalance China's expanding footprint in Africa amid Washington's waning presence. Let's take a listen to some of the speakers.
I urge all stakeholders, governments and development partners, the private sector and the civil society, to renew the commitment to innovation-driven collaboration. Together, we can co-create solutions that are not only transformative, but also sustainable and inclusive, ensuring that no one is left behind.
Japan believes in Africa's future and will promote investment in Africa. Through AI and data science human resource development, as well as economic growth initiatives in Africa, we will train 30,000 industrial personnel in AI in Africa over the next 3 years.
Well, let's head to Kenya now, where only recently has Rastafari been accepted as a legitimate religion. Well, a new place of worship has just opened outside the capital, and the faithful gathered to read scripture and exchange teachings there. It is a rare event that, according to members of the congregation, shows the resilience and endurance of the Rastafari community within Kenya, having suffered years of discrimination.
Most people never saw Rastafari as a good thing, as a spiritual thing. Yes, so we faced a lot of trials and tribulations back then from family members, the government, the police, all around. Actually, even being discriminated, not being employed, lack of jobs and all that. But yeah, we endured. We are here today. Yes, my Lord. So we would say today Rastafari is better. More brethren have received this light and have come to Rastafari. So in Kenya, we have very many Rastafari from all the mansions.
And finally, it's now time for a sporting update with the African Nations Championship. The lineup for the Chan quarterfinals is officially complete, and this year there's a historic first in the mix. The tournament, jointly hosted by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, has seen all of those teams advance past the group stage and feature in the last 8. The co-host Collective Progress has added another edge of excitement to the unity theme of this major competition. Bastien Renouy brings us the latest from Nairobi.
What a surprise. Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda never made it past group stage, and yet the three teams finished top of their groups. Tanzania was the most convincing with 3 easy wins and a draw. Kenya had a more difficult pass, ending with the same record, but struggling during some of the games. The team had to play with only 10 players against Morocco and Angola after red cards. And it was even more difficult for Uganda. The team lost its opening game against Algeria and bounced back during the following games. The first quarter-final will take place here on Friday afternoon. Kenya will host Madagascar in Kasarani Stadium in front of tens of thousands of supporters. Tickets are sold out, and it's worth mentioning that when the tickets were put on sale, the website crashed because many bots tried to buy tickets, according to the company managing the website. The next game will take place on Friday night in Dar es Salaam. Tanzania will host Morocco, and then on Saturday, Uganda will play against Senegal, and Algeria will travel to Zanzibar to play against another surprise, Sudan, which also finished first of its group.
And that concludes our programme for today. Thank you for watching Eye on Africa. Stay tuned to France 24.